In the shadowed dawn of the 11th century, as Europe struggled to emerge from the chaos of the Dark Ages, one man burned with the fierce fire of the old gods. A warrior, a king, a legend. He would shake empires, cross continents, and die with a sword in his hand and a kingdom in his heart. His name was Harald Hardrada, the last great Viking king. And with his fall, the Viking Age itself would breathe its final breath. Born of battle. Born in 1015, Harald Sigurdsson was the youngest of a noble Norwegian family. His half-brother, King Olaf II, later Saint Olaf, Norway's first Christian king. But Norway was not yet united. Local warlords resisted Olaf's reforms, and Harald was raised in the forge of rebellion. At just 15, he took up arms beside his brother in the fateful Battle of Stiklestad in 1030. A battle meant to reclaim Norway. Ended in slaughter. Olaf was killed, Harald wounded, and the boy warrior was driven into exile. But for Harald, this was not an end. It was a beginning. The long exile. Harald fled east, first to Kievan Rus, where Prince Yaroslav the Wise took him in. There, Harald matured, not just as a warrior, but as a thinker, a diplomat, a leader. But Harald hungered for more. He gathered men, forged alliances, and sailed south, to the heart of the greatest empire of the day, Byzantium, the Varangian Guard. In Constantinople, Harald joined the Varangian Guard, the elite force of Norsemen sworn to protect the Byzantine Emperor. To them, he was known as Aralds. He fought across the empire. In Sicily, against Arab pirates. In Bulgaria, in savage mountain warfare. In the Holy Land, guarding pilgrims and relics. He rose quickly, becoming a commander, a trusted sword in the emperor's hand. Some say he amassed enough gold to buy a kingdom. But Harald wanted more than riches. He wanted a crown. The return of the exile. In 1045, Harald returned to Norway, a seasoned warlord with a treasure trove of Byzantine gold and an army of hardened veterans. He made a deal with his nephew Magnus the Good, then King of Norway. But alliances in medieval Scandinavia were fragile. By 1047, Magnus was dead, some say conveniently, and Harald became sole king of Norway. The exile had come home. The Iron Rule. As king, Harald was no soft reformer. He ruled with a clenched fist, centralizing power, suppressing nobles, and enforcing strict law and order. He built churches, minted coins, and patronized poets. Under Harald, Norway became more than a collection of tribes, it became a nation. But to many, he was Hardrada, the hard ruler. To others, he was the last true Viking king, fearless, ruthless, untamed. Dreams of Denmark. Harald set his sights beyond Norway. His old rival Magnus had once ruled Denmark, and Harald believed it was his by right. From 1047 to 1064, he launched annual invasions, raiding the coasts, burning towns, challenging King Sweyn Estridsson. Victory was never total. But Harald never gave up. Even after years of stalemate, his ambitions only grew. A dead king's promise. In 1066, a golden opportunity arrived from the foggy isles of the west. Edward the Confessor, King of England, had died childless. 3 men now claimed the throne. Harold Godwin's son, the English noble, William of Normandy, and Harald Hardrada, King of Norway. Why Harald? Because he claimed King Nut had promised England to Magnus, and thus to him. It was thin justification. But Harald was a Viking. He didn't need reasons. He needed only the chance to conquer. The Viking invasion of England. With 300 ships and 10,000 warriors, Harald set sail for England. Joining him was Tostig Godwin's son, Harald's exiled brother, who sought revenge. They stormed the north, capturing Scarborough, defeating English forces at the Battle of Fulford near York. The Norwegians were confident, victorious, and unprepared for what came next. Stamford Bridge. On September 25, 1066, the Viking army rested near Stamford Bridge, expecting peace talks. Instead, they saw the banners of Harald Godwin's son, who had marched 185 miles in 4 days with his elite housecarls. The English attacked swiftly. Many Norsemen died before they could even arm themselves. Legend says Harald fought like a beast. Towering above others, swinging a massive two-handed sword, cutting down any who dared near. Then, an arrow struck his throat. Harald Hardrada fell. And with him, the Viking Age ended. The end of the age. Harald's death was more than the fall of a king. It was the closing of a chapter nearly 300 years long. The Norsemen who once struck fear from Newfoundland to Baghdad were no longer raiders. They were rulers, traders, and settlers. The old world of longships and sagas faded. Europe was changing. Just 19 days after Stamford Bridge, William of Normandy would land at Hastings and conquer England, ushering in the feudal age. The world Harald knew was gone. But his legend lived on. The legacy of Hardrada. Harald was more than a brute warrior. He spoke multiple languages. He wrote poetry, some of which survives. He reformed law, stabilized Norway, and left a centralized monarchy that lasted centuries. He was feared. He was loved. He was hated. He was the embodiment of a dying world, its flame burning brightest before its end. The sea wolf sleeps. In sagas, he is called the Sea Wolf, the Thunderbolt of the North, the last of the Vikings. Though he died on a foreign field, he lives in the winds that whip across the fjords. In the sagas still told by firelight. In the restless spirit of those who chase glory beyond the known world. Harald Hardrada was not merely a man. He was the echo of Odin's roar, the last breath of Valhalla's wrath. And when he fell, an entire age fell with him. If this story stirred your blood and made history feel alive once more, subscribe to @CryptoStoic Insights, where legends live again, where forgotten heroes rise from the mist, and where the past still speaks. Like, comment, and share to keep the flame of history burning. And remember, the end of one age is always the beginning of another.